This is as my life now.
When Tank hit the ground, the whole yard went quiet. He wasn't just some big guy. Tank was the man everyone feared. Ran the card games, the contraband, decided who ate in peace and who bled on the concrete. For 10 years this was his kingdom, and now he was on his knees in front of me, hands tied behind his back with his own chain, blood on his teeth. The guards on the wall freaked out. Rifles aimed down. Sirens. Evans, back away from him or we will shoot. 200 inmates stood in a circle, not moving. They'd seen me walk into this fight alone. Now they were waiting to see what I'd do next. Step back and let Tank crawl away, or finish it and take his place. That's the thing about life after 50. You don't get many more chances to choose what kind of man you are. 2 months earlier, I was just a maintenance guy who wanted to finish his shift without another damn meeting. I'd spent 30 years working the same floor. Container cranes, forklifts, and busted diesel engines. If it's steel and made noise, I could get it moving again. I wasn't rich, but my tools were paid for, the mortgage almost done. And on Friday nights, I'd grill steaks in the backyard and call my son to brag about how my creaky knees still climb towers better than the kids. Then corporate sent us a new operations director. His name was Doyle. Perfect hair, expensive watch, that fake friendly smile that never touched his eyes. You're the legendary Evans, huh? The man who keeps this yard from falling apart. I keep it from killing people. I corrected him. He laughed like we were buddies. I'd seen his type before. The kind that never lifted anything heavier than a laptop, but somehow ends up in charge. At first it was just small stuff. He wanted us to move certain containers out faster, bumped them ahead of the queue. No paperwork, no questions. Then one night, he called me into his office. There was a clipboard on the desk with a stack of inspection forms. "I need you to sign off on these," he said. "We're behind schedule. You know how it is." I skimmed the first page. Half those containers hadn't even been on the yard that day. I pushed the clipboard back. "No way. Put my name on that. And if something goes wrong, I'm the one in court, not you." He smiled again, a little thinner this time. "Come on, Evans. You're close to retirement. Don't you want a little cushion? Sign, and I'll make sure you get a nice bonus." "I want to sleep at night," I said. "Find another signature." That was the night I should have known he wouldn't let it go. The accident happened 3 days later. I was up on Crane 4 when I heard the scream over the radio. By the time I got down, the ambulance was already there. A 23-year-old kid, first month on the job, crushed between a container and the truck. I checked the logs. The safety lock on the spreader had failed. But when I opened the panel, my stomach dropped. Someone had pulled the fuse. The next morning, security found a bag of cash and 3 phones in my locker, drugs and one of the phone's photos. Screenshots of messages I'd never written, all pointing at me. They didn't even bother to make it believable. They just needed enough for the DA. At the trial, Doyle sat in the back row in a purple suit and pretended not to see me. My lawyer talked about my 30 clean years on the job. The prosecutor talked about bribery, smuggling, and criminal negligence resulting in death. The judge gave me 8 years in a privately run state prison. By the time they clicked the cuffs on, I wasn't thinking about justice anymore. I was thinking about the kid in the body bag, my son watching news, and Doyle's watch glinting under the courtroom lights. Prison at 50 isn't like prison at 25. Your body hurts all the time, and you don't have the same energy for stupid fights over seat space. But the rules are the same. Don't show fear. Don't volunteer anything. And never forget who did this to you. The place they sent me to was a correctional industrial facility. That's a long way of saying cheap labor factory with fences around it. We rebuilt forklifts, repaired generators, stripped engines from old heavy equipment. That's how I ended up in the prison workshop. And how I met Red. Red was in his 60s, wiry, tattoos faded into blue stains. He'd been inside since before I'd even started at the port. First day, he watched me disassemble a gearbox, then grunted. "You know what you're doing, old man. I used to keep 3 cranes running the parts network." I said. He snorted. "You might survive here after all." Red showed me who was really in charge. Not the warden, not the guards. Tank, big, bald, built like a wrecking ball. He ran the yard gang. The inmates who controlled who worked where, who got the good boots, who carried parts, and who carried stories. If you wanted tools, you talked to Tank. If you wanted to keep your teeth, you did what Tank's guys told you. The first time Tank spoke to me, he didn't bother with a hello. He walked into the workshop with two of his boys, picked up my wrench, and inspected it like he was already bored. "You Evans? The crane guy?" "That's me," I said, keeping my eyes on the engine I was working on. "I hear you didn't play ball with your boss on the outside," he said. "That's inconvenient. For some people." He dropped the wrench on the floor. "Heavy, deliberate. From now on, when certain crates come in for repair detail, you don't look too closely at what's welded under frames. You understand?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "Let me guess. Doyle's expanded the business." One of his boys stepped closer. "You get smart with this, old man?" I looked at Tank. If your friend Doyle wanted me to help him smuggle things, he shouldn't have framed me first. For a second, I thought he was going to swing right there. Instead, he smiled. "Cold, you've got a mouth on you, Evans. We'll see how long it lasts." When they left, Red shook his head. "You just painted a target on your back, partner. I've had worse bosses," I said, "and they're all still soft in their offices. I'm the one with the scars." But I knew he was right. Men like Doyle don't like loose ends. And Tank was his cleanup crew. They came for me a week later. It was the end of the shift, most guys already in line for count. I stayed behind, wiping down tools. Old habit. I heard the door click shut. 3 of Tank's guys stepped in, one with a padlock and a sock, another with a sharpened metal shard. No witnesses. No cameras in the corner of the shop. "Boss says you're done, Grandpa." One of them grinned. I didn't answer. I was too busy grabbing the only thing near my hand, a busted drive shaft. He swung first. I ducked and felt the padlock graze the top of my ear. Warm blood ran down my neck. I brought the drive shaft up hard, caught him in the ribs. He folded. The second guy lunged with a shank. I grabbed his wrist with both hands, twisted until I heard something pop, then drove my forehead into his face. My vision went white for a second, but he dropped. The third one hesitated. I saw it. That flicker where a man realizes maybe this wasn't as easy as he thought. Then a hand came from behind him and yanked him back by the collar. Red. He slammed the kid into the nearest workbench. Tools went flying. When it was over, 2 of them were groaning on the floor, and the third was pressed against the wall with Red's elbow under his chin. I stepped closer. "Who sent you?" He spat blood. "You already know." "I want to hear you say it." He laughed, a little hysterical. "Doyle, your fancy boss. He pays Tank. Tank runs this place with the warden, and you were supposed to shut up and disappear." Red shoved him harder. "What happens to us if you fail tonight?" He swallowed. "They send more guys. Or they move you. Guys who get moved on Doyle's list. Don't make it long." Red looked at me over his shoulder. "We're out of time, Evans." He was right. There are moments in a man's life when he either lies down or stands up. I'd bent my back for every boss I ever had. But this? Being erased like I'd never mattered? No. If I was going to die in here, I was at least going to make someone work for it. Red. And I didn't talk escape at first. We talked control. "You can't beat Tank by running," Red said one night in cell, voice low. "You've got to beat him in the only place that matters to these men, out in the yard." "How?" "He's twice my size and has 10 years of fear behind him." Red grinned. "Yeah, but you've got something he doesn't." "What's that?" "You know how to keep a system running, and how to break one without anyone seeing your fingerprints." He was right. A prison yard is a machine just like a crane. It only works as long as everyone believes it has to. We started small. A mistake with a forklift brake. So it failed during Tank's favorite tobacco run. A lost box of contraband that somehow ended up in the guard's hands with his name attached. A few carefully chosen words here and there about how Tank was getting soft, how he was skimming too much for himself. You don't have to knock a man down. You can get his own people to stop trusting him. Within 2 weeks, Tank was sweating. Within 4, he was furious. The day he came for me, he didn't bring his boys. He didn't want witnesses to how this ended. Perfect. Which brings us back to that yard. The noon sun beating down. Men forming a circle before any guard could bark an order. Instinct. They could smell something big coming. Tank threw off his shirt. Scars everywhere. "You think you're clever, old man?" he growled. "You think you can make me look weak in front of my people?" I rolled my shoulders, feeling every year in my joints. "I don't have to make you look weak," I said. "You did that all by yourself." He charged. I didn't try to meet him head on. You don't crash a fully loaded crane into another. You redirect the load. I stepped aside at the last second, grabbed his arm, used his own momentum to send him into the dirt. The yard roared. He got up, angrier, swinging wild. He caught me once in the ribs, like being hit with a toolbox. My lungs burned, but anger makes you sloppy. Experience makes you patient. I waited for him to overcommit, then wrapped the length of chain I'd been hiding around his wrist, twisted, and brought him down again. This time, I didn't let him up. Knee in his back, chain on his wrists. The circle went silent. We all heard the same thing at once. The click of rifles up on the towers. Evans, step away from him or we open fire. Tank tried to buck me off. "You're dead, old man. You and your friend Red. You don't touch what's mine." I leaned down so only he could hear. "This yard isn't yours anymore," I whispered. "It belongs to the men you bled dry." Then I stood up and looked around at 200 pairs of eyes. "You tired of this?" I shouted. "Of being worked to the bone so some suit and some bully can get rich off your backs?" A murmur went through the crowd. Up on the wall, the guards were screaming at us to get down. I raised my hand slowly. "I'm not telling you to riot," I said. "I'm telling you to remember something. This place doesn't run without us." Then I did something no one expected. I stepped back. Tank lay on the ground, humiliated, breathing hard. But he was alive. That was the difference. He ruled through fear. I wasn't going to. After that day, things changed. Tank's own crew didn't look at him the same. Men started coming to me and Red with their problems instead of him. Who gets which job? Who needs extra time in the shop? Who's getting pushed too hard by the guards? I didn't want to be a king. I just wanted something like order. But in a place like that, the man who fixes things ends up being the man people follow. The warden did not like that. His name was Briggs, ex-military, square jaw, thought yelling louder fixed everything. He called me into his office one afternoon. There was a folder on the desk with my name on it. "Seems you become popular, Evans," he said. "That's a problem. Keeping your equipment running is supposed to be a good thing," I said. He smirked. "It is. But see, my contract doesn't pay extra for community leadership. So here's what's going to happen. Next week, you're on a bus to another facility. Drier air, less noise." I knew exactly what that was. New facility, new yard, new chance for Doyle's people to make me disappear for good. I walked out of that office and went straight to Red. "They're moving me," I said. Red nodded, like he'd been expecting it. "Then we're doing this now," he said. "Doing what?" He gave me that same crooked grin I'd seen the first day in the shop. "You wanted justice, didn't you? Time to break more than just forklifts." We didn't plan an escape. We planned an exposure. Every repair machine we touched, every contraband part welded under a frame, every special crate Doyle had pushed through this place. Red had been keeping notes in his head for years. I knew how to make systems work. Red knew where all the bodies were buried. For a month, we've been quietly setting things up, broken cameras that accidentally stayed focused on the wrong spots, a maintenance tablet that still had access to the old network, a guard who hated Briggs enough to look the other way when a certain file got copied. On the morning Briggs was supposed to sign my transfer, the yard looked normal. But the moment the first bell rang, the machines started dying. Forklifts stalled. Generators cut out. Doors jammed halfway open. You want to paralyze a place like that? Hit its heartbeat. Guards yelled and argued. The whole yard jammed up. In the middle of that chaos, Red and I slipped into the control room under the pretext of fixing the main panel. The same guard who hated Briggs let us through, face pale. "You've got 5 minutes before someone notices," he muttered. Inside, the control room was a wall of screens and blinking lights. I went straight to the main console. Red pulled the maintenance tablet from under his shirt and plugged it into a hidden port he'd spotted months ago. "Are you sure this will work?" I asked. He shrugged. "I've got decades of complaints, reports, and videos on this thing. If the state police don't care, at least they'll know." We hit send. Every file, every picture of hidden compartments, every internal memo with Doyle's name on it. Out of the prison network and into the state server, and a news tip line read, had memorized from late night TV. Then the door behind us slammed open. Briggs. Red didn't even turn. "Right on schedule," he muttered. "Step away from that panel." Briggs barked, gun in his hand. "What did you do?" I raised my hand. "Just maintenance, Captain." He looked at the screens. Some still frozen on images of crates with welded boxes underneath. Guard logs. Tank's men moving packages at night. His face went red. "You think anyone will believe a couple of cons?" he snarled. "You're dead, both of you." That's when the alarm on his own desk phone went off. Outside line. State police. He hesitated. 1 second. 2. In that tiny window, I did what I'd done my whole life. I pulled the right lever. Literally. There was a manual override for the yard gates. A big red handle nobody had touched in years. I slammed it down. Every inner door leading from the workshops and cells to the yard slid open at once. Briggs pointed his gun at me. "You just started a riot, Evans," he hissed. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I just stopped you from hiding this mess anymore." Outside, I could hear the roar as men poured into the yard. Not panicked, confused. I grabbed the intercom mic. "Everybody listen up," I said, my voice booming across the speakers. "You don't touch a guard. You don't touch each other. You sit your asses down in the middle of the yard and you stay there." Red raised an eyebrow. "You sure about this?" "If we riot, they call it a security incident," I said. "If we sit and wait, it's a witness of this." Briggs lunged for me. Red stepped between us. For a second, I thought he'd take the bullet. Then the door burst open again. This time, not guards. State troopers. Real ones. Guns out, badges visible, shouting orders even Briggs had to obey. It took months of the dust to settle. They suspended Briggs, opened his files, found enough irregularities to keep lawyers busy for years. They pulled Tank out of the yard in cuffs when they matched his face to footage of those midnight transfers. And Doyle? He looked a lot smaller sitting in a defendant's chair than he had strutting around our port in a $1,000 suit. As for me, the DA called it extraordinary cooperation from an incarcerated witness. The judge called it time served. They opened the gates one cold morning and handed me a plastic bag with my old belt, my watch, and $32. Red stood on the other side of the fence, still in his jumpsuit. "You sure you want to walk out, old man?" he asked. "You just became the most respected mechanic in this place." I laughed. "You really want me to stay in prison just so you don't have to teach the new guys?" He grinned. "Someone's out to run the shop. He taught me a few tricks. I'll keep them alive." We shook hands through the chain link. "You ever get out?" I said, "I'll have a job waiting. Real one. No fences." He nodded. "You just make sure you actually live, Evans. Don't waste your second chance chasing ghosts." Now I run a small repair shop again. Not in Houston. Too many memories. Just off a highway where truckers pull in with smoking brakes and engines that sound like die animals. Sometimes when I'm under a hood with oil on my hands, I hear the yard in my head. Red's laugh. Hank hitting the dirt. 200 men sitting down instead of tearing the place apart because one old mechanic told them to. Did I defeat the boss and become their king? I don't know about king, but for a little while in that concrete cage, I remembered something important. I might have been framed. I might have lost years. But as long as I could still stand up, still swing a wrench, still tell the truth louder than a bully could shout a lie, no one could tell me what kind of man I was. And if you're a man who's ever been crushed by someone like Doyle or Tank, you know exactly what I mean.